Hello Planet Internet, I am Emperor Cole and this is Emperor Cole Film Review brought to you by MindbenderENT.com. And today I'm here to review Justice League, directed by Zack Snyder, written by Chris Terrio and Joss Whedon. This is going to be a spoiler review, so if you have not seen the movie, you definitely want to pause this video and go get on your job. Everybody else that has seen the movie, let's take this journey together and let's go unite the seven. Let's do it. I'm gonna say there are some things I enjoyed about this movie, some things I liked a whole lot, and then there were some things that I absolutely hated. I'm gonna start with the positives though and tell you the things that I enjoyed about the film that I thought were done very well. I'm gonna say I thought the team chemistry was done very well. A lot of the different team members were able to have things that they were able to relate with each other about, and like different points they were able to bond over, things that were able to bring them together as a team. What I mean is, for example, Wonder Woman withdrew from the world for 100 years because she didn't like the world of man and what was going on. So she's able to relate to Cyborg and the fact that he's now this part man, part machine. He's not quite sure what's going on with this new cybernetic armor that he has. He's not sure if he's a good guy or going to be a bad guy. And of course he doesn't like the way he looks and what he's going through. So he's withdrawn away from the world. Cyborg is just staying inside his father's house. He's pulled away from everything. So, at that scene when Wonder Woman's at the computer, and he's like talking to the computer and speaking to her, and he agrees to meet with her. And then when they're together, she explains it to him like, you know, I know what you're feeling, I know what you're going through. Maybe you're ready to open up and speak with me about it. The fact that he even met with her means that there was something that he connected with her about, and I thought that they pulled it off very well just showing that scene. And of course, before he even talks to her, he just does this thing where he just jumps up and flies away. So, that was one thing I thought they did very well. There was also great chemistry between Wonder Woman and Batman when, of course, they're having some moments where they're kind of getting into a little bit of an argument or a spat with each other, where Batman says to her, like, you know, Superman was a beacon of light for this world, of hope. He was out trying to fight the good fight, basically. And what did you do? You just crumpled up and disappeared for 100 years. And he said something about, oh, did you hear that from your boyfriend, Steve Trevor? And she got upset and, like, punched him, and he fell back. Like, I thought that was done very well, just showing they had two opposing views. Just like when Batman wanted to use the Mother Box to resurrect Superman. Batman was all in, Wonder Woman didn't want to do it. So they kind of had the chemistry once again. They were against each other. And then you see that when Batman's sitting on top of that building, when they get ready to execute the plan and go into the Kryptonian ship to go try to resurrect Superman, and Wonder Woman shows up and says, I'm here for Clark, not you. I also like the way Flash was utilized in this movie. Flash had very good chemistry overall for the whole entire team. He was the most inexperienced member of the squad, and basically he was the comedic relief throughout the film. That was done pretty good. I enjoyed most of the scenes with it. So just the fact that when he first meets Batman, he's all in because Batman's a superhero that he's heard of, and as soon as he sees the Batarang, he just automatically knows who this is. And he's like, oh my God, you're the Batman. And just like that scene where he goes inside the Batcave when they all come in, and he runs around the whole entire place, he gets in the Batmobile, he's looking at everything. He's like a kid in the candy store, and he's so excited to see everything. Once again, that was done very well. The chemistry they put between him and Cyborg when they're digging up the grave for Clark Kent. And he's trying to tell him, like, you know, he says to him, I could do this much faster, but, you know, this just feels really wrong. And just like the scene when they go to save the scientists from Star Labs, and the Flash tells Batman, he pulls him aside, and he's like, you know, man, I've never really done this hero thing before. I've kind of just run really fast and push people, then run away. And Batman tells him, you know, just save one. And he's like, what to do after that? He says, you'll know. And of course, Flash goes and he has this heroic moment where he's running people in and out of the battle. He's running real fast. He's in the Speed Force, and he pushes the sword to help Wonder Woman out when she's falling so she could cut that parademon in half. That was handled very well. Also, I like the role that Aquaman played within the team, where he was kind of like the badass outsider who eventually shows up for the team when they're in that scene when they're in the tunnel, and Steppenwolf throws that missile, and he says, where are we at exactly? And he's like, we're under the Gotham Harbor. And of course, Aquaman shows up and he's able to stop the water to give them enough time to get to freedom. His role in general in the film, I like the way Jason Momoa portrayed the character. And once again, I thought his chemistry with them and team dynamic worked very well. It was believable on how the team came together and eventually decided to work together to try to get the job done to stop Steppenwolf. Another thing I enjoyed were the action sequences that took place on Wonder Woman's home island of Themyscira, where her mother, Queen Hippolyta, is trying to keep the Mother Box away from Steppenwolf. And that chase sequence where they're on horses, they're shooting arrows and doing everything they can to try to get to throw this Mother Box to each other. They're playing keep away, and Steppenwolf is just taking these crazy leaps and bounds and jumps. He's landing on top of people and whacking people with his axe and all that. Like, he's going in to try to get this Mother Box. That sequence was very enjoyable. I thought that was dope. Also, as far as the story goes, it made a lot of sense that they already had the history on Steppenwolf. They'd already faced him in battle before and they knew what he was all about. Also, that Lord of the Rings prequel type moment where in the Lord of the Rings where they had Sauron fighting everybody in the world of men, elves, everybody had to come together to beat him. And then where they had that scene that's very similar to that in this movie where Steppenwolf is battling the ancient Atlantis people, he's fighting the Amazons, he's fighting the world of men, the old gods, everybody had to come together to fight him. And you see somebody who looks like it could be either Zeus or the first Shazam throw a lightning bolt at him. We get somebody, the Green Lantern comes and we see that Green Lantern die and the ring comes off and goes to whoever's gonna be next. Like, yo, that scene was awesome. That gave me the chills. It was like, yo, they could make a prequel movie about that specific battle and all the things that were going on around that. Like, that could be something that could be done later on if, of course, Justice League makes enough money. Let me say that overall, I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was pretty good, but unfortunately, the movie is not as memorable as I would like it to have been. Before I go through a list of things that I thought should have been done much better or things I thought that they handled incorrectly, I'm going to say that overall, I enjoyed this movie. I think you should see it. But now I'm going to run through a list of things that I did not like, things that I didn't think they handled very well. Okay, so the tone of this movie is much lighter than the other DC movies. And that was something that I actually had a problem with because although they made it a little bit lighter, this movie does not feel as serious as the other DC movies. And what I mean by that is when Batman vs. Superman and all that stuff was going on, they're having court hearings on Capitol Hill. People want to know what's going on. Superman's being subpoenaed to come and speak to let them know X, Y, and Z about what happened in Africa, yada, yada, yada. In this movie, Steppenwolf is showing up all over the earth, doing these things. These heroes have to unite together, and it's like the whole entire world is not aware of anything that's going on. In the third act, when they're having their battle in this old nuclear reactor type place or town, nobody in the world knows what's going on. There's no reports about it. And of course, there's got to be somewhere where there's no human casualties going to take place. They got these weird outtakes or cuts where they keep going back to this one family that's living in this desolate area, and for some reason they keep cutting back and forth to them, showing that they're in danger. And I thought that almost like that was a direct reaction to what happened in Man of Steel, where people actually complained, oh my God, they destroyed so much of the city. This is the audience. People complained about the destruction and the death toll in Metropolis, so that all of a sudden now this battle in Justice League has to take place in a place that's completely unpopulated. Like there's no real threat. It doesn't feel like anything's really at stake. That was something that I absolutely hated. It just seemed very unrealistic. Another thing that I didn't think was done very well was the character Steppenwolf. Of course, the CGI of what he just looked like physically looked great, but of course when he's talking, it kind of looks like a video game. It looks like a cutscene in a video game where it's just his mouth is moving, his face doesn't have very much expression, and it looks too CGI. Then Steppenwolf, the character and what he was after, that felt very Loki-ish, where he's trying to get these devices so he can take over Earth. And he's doing it on behalf of somebody else. There's that scene where you hear him say, for Darkseid. And of course in Avengers, Loki was trying to use the staff to open up this portal so that Chitauri can come in and take over the planet. So in that sense, the villain was very weak and it felt like Avengers watered down. I didn't like that at all. I felt like they could have maybe made the villain's motivation a little bit more his own. They could have made his motivation and just what he was doing a little more unique. And then when they showed the flashback scenes of Steppenwolf, he seemed like he was much stronger and he was getting busy in those fights a little bit more than he was in the present day. In the present day, I felt like maybe they should have included another person or two or maybe some secondary characters, somebody to get killed by him, just to show that there was actually something on the line for these actual superheroes and to show that Steppenwolf wasn't this weak character that Superman could just suddenly show up, punch him around a couple times, and then all of a sudden he's so scared the parademons take him away. That ending was terrible for me. That was just, suddenly he's consumed by his fear because Superman is there. Then the parademons just come and all jump on him and start trying to eat him. And then he just goes, the boom tube opens up and he disappears. That was horrible. That felt like very lazy writing in my opinion. Another thing the film could have did a little bit better was the character development. Of course, we got a bunch of different superheroes coming together to be part of this team. You don't have time to go into everybody's backstory 100%. But I thought they could have shown a little bit more just to show where everybody was coming from and what this story was. Overall, the movie feels a little rushed. Warner Brothers put out a mandate to the filmmakers that, yo, we do not want this movie to be over 2 hours. So once that happens, you understand why they had to rush the character. I think Warner Brothers is shooting themselves in the foot because they're constantly chasing Marvel box office. And you have to understand, you're on your 4th movie in your extended universe. Marvel is on their 18th or 19th movie, and they're in like phase 3 of what they're doing. So you can't always try to recreate what Marvel is doing. You have to understand this is DC Comics. You have different characters. Your characters are more godly, are more powerful than the Marvel characters. So you have to take your time with it. Your films are going to be a little bit more serious, and that's fine. But I think they should have stuck to the tone they originally had. They made this one lighter, which was okay, but at the same time, it's so different from Batman vs. Superman. It's so different in tone from Man of Steel. They tried to make it very jokey, and Flash being the joke character is okay. One guy can be the joke guy, but the scene like where Batman falls and he says, oh, something's bleeding after Superman throws him down and goes away, like, Batman's not supposed to be cracking jokes. That's not what Batman does. Like, everybody shouldn't be throwing out one-liners. When Superman comes back, let me clarify, I liked Superman's part after he's back and he's in the movie, what he does, but the way they brought Superman back was something that I didn't think was done very well at all. What do I mean? Well, at the end of Batman vs. Superman, we see this dirt start rising off of this coffin, and suddenly it looks like, is he about to be resurrected? Is he coming back? What's going on? We don't know. In this movie, Flash and Cyborg are digging up Clark Kent's grave. If his body is actually in Clark Kent's grave plot, then who's in Superman's coffin? That means Superman's coffin that we saw with the big procession and going through DC, and they got the police and everybody there, yada, yada. That means Superman's coffin is empty. So that means the whole world must know that Clark Kent is actually Superman. Identity is completely blown. That's not explained or anything in the film, but we'll let him get away with that. In the Man of Steel, Clark or Superman has the codex within his body. This codex, which is supposed to contain all the DNA, everything from Krypton. So you think maybe that might have something to do with him being resurrected and being brought back. Maybe they'll use that as a plot point on how they're able to bring Superman back to life. Nope. Maybe the Fortress of Solitude, this place that he has up in Antarctica, out in the middle of nowhere. Maybe there's some kind of a regeneration chamber or something up there, and they'll use that to bring Superman back to life. Nope. Okay, and then Henry Cavill was posting pictures of like a black Superman suit. He was teasing that to the audience on Twitter. Maybe he's going to come back as the Eradicator. He's going to be this cold, really ruthless guy. And there's a small hint of that, just a little, because he's kind of got like the dark pants on, and when he's squaring off, he's fighting with everybody in the Justice League. He hits Cyborg with the laser blast. Okay, cool. And, you know, he's squaring off with them. I like that scene. That was dope. But the way they brought him back where, oh, we're going to go to the Kryptonian ship. Again, just like we did with Zod. We're going to put him into this water, into this solution, and we're going to use the mother box. And Flash is just going to run, and a bolt of lightning, he's going to touch it, and that's going to do everything. I thought that was a rehash of how Zod was brought back to life and how he became Doomsday. So obviously a mother box was not used to bring Zod back to life, but you know what I mean, where it was simply the Kryptonian ship was supposed to have the solution and everything to bring this person back to life. There were better options on what could have been used to resurrect Superman, in my opinion. The thing, when Superman comes back, does Superman remember anything or does he not remember anything? He starts fighting with all the other new guys, Flash and Cyborg and Wonder Woman, because of course he's not terribly familiar with them. But wait a minute, he says to Batman when he grabs him, "Tell me, do you bleed?" A direct reference to Batman versus Superman, which means he remembers this confrontation with him. He remembers Batman coming at him because he says, "You won't let me live, yet you won't let me die." But then suddenly, he doesn't recognize Wonder Woman. Another great part of the film, of course, is when all the heroes, Aquaman, Cyborg, Wonder Woman, and Flash, when everybody's confronting Superman and they got this fight going on, Superman's holding them all, he's got them all back, and Flash thinks, okay, I'm just going to run past them, jump in the Speed Force and do what I do. And when Flash is running, and Superman actually sees him and his eyes are following him, and he's got that look on his face like, holy shit. That was hilarious because, of course, Flash is so quick that nobody can keep up with him when he's moving that fast. So he was terrified that this guy could actually see him. And not only did he see him, Superman was able to react. The fact that there's so much of this movie that was cut out and it's stuff that you've already seen in the trailers and little clips, And now when you watch the actual film, these things do not show up. For example, when they're standing in that doorway and they're getting ready to save the scientists from Star Labs, from Steppenwolf, because he's captured them all and he's trying to figure out where the mother box is at. When they originally walked in that doorway and Cyborg says to Batman, "I've heard about you. I didn't think you were real." And Batman says, "I'm real when it's useful." Guess what? That part never happens in the movie. And I'm like, wow, they got rid of that dialogue, that piece, for something that was not as memorable. Or just like the part where Batman jumps into his machine or bat gadget that he has that has all the big guns on it, and he says, "My turn." And guess what? They completely cut that part out. The part where Cyborg is flying through like the air, you see him, and he's like loading up weapons or certain parts of his suit, the gadgets are moving or whatever. You don't see that at all. There's no flight scene with Cyborg. Or the part where he saves the police officer from the police car that's flipping towards him. And he says something to him like, maybe you should back up or maybe you should get out of here or something of that nature. That scene never happens at all. Once again, I'm guessing that was stuff that was part of Zack Snyder's original cut. And when you bring in Joss Whedon, obviously you're going to get a different film. And for the most part, the CGI in this movie is pretty good right up until we get to the third act. In the third act, with the sky replacement, where the sky is reddish because of what's going on with the mother boxes and what Steppenwolf's doing, trying to unite them for the unity and all that, that red sky does not help the CGI look any better. That looks terrible. That looks like a sci-fi movie. Looks like a big budget sci-fi channel movie. And for anyone keeping score, if you remember the very first trailer and that scene, the sky was originally dark. It was a dark grayish blue. As far as the end credit scenes go, of course there are two end credit scenes. The very first one you can tell was done by Joss Whedon. Why? Because it's a very light end credit and it's something basically straight from the comic books, straight from the cartoon, where Flash, I believe in the cartoon Justice League, Flash and Superman decide to race around the world. And this one, at the very end, he says to him, "Let's go to the West Coast. You know, I've never seen the Pacific before." And Flash, he's not sure which way is west. So that was pretty funny. And of course, it's the age-old question: who's faster between Superman and Flash? The second end credit scene is the much more juicier one. It's the one that foreshadows the future of what comes next. So of course, we go to some big fancy yacht. You see Slade Wilson pulling up, aka Deathstroke. And he's going to this yacht. He's meeting with Lex Luthor. Luthor's got the bald head. He's got the women there. Classic Lex Luthor type of stuff. And of course, Jesse Eisenberg is there for the very end, last scenes. So he was not completely cut out of the movie. This scene is awesome because you see Slade Wilson. He takes the mask off and it's Joe Manganiello. And you see that his Deathstroke character is in play in this DC universe. Deathstroke is almost like the evil version of Batman. He can go toe-to-toe with Batman. He's a skilled fighter. He's a strategist. He could be something special if used correctly. But this scene lets you know that they're going to build up a team of their own. And of course, it could be the Legion of Doom. It could be the Injustice League or what have you, because they have a smorgasbord of bad guys to choose from that they could incorporate into this universe. The second end credit scene, as far as Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor, you notice he's much more serious. He's much more subdued, the way Lex Luthor should be. He's not this goofy guy. Even his tone of voice is different. He's not all goofy and, Superman, God's in the air. I hated his portrayal of Lex Luthor in Batman vs. Superman. At the very end of Justice League, this Lex Luthor that we see, that's how Luthor's supposed to be. Okay, so there is strong speculation that if Justice League does not earn $1 billion worldwide, the Flashpoint movie is going to be used to reset the whole entire universe. Where basically they're going to take everything back to square one. It's going to be a new actor as Batman, and I even heard after the Flashpoint movie takes place, when Flash comes back to the present day, the whole Batman versus Superman conflict is going to be something that never took place. You're going to get a new Batman who's going to be much younger. That's how they're going to explain Ben Affleck being out of the series and him being off doing whatever. And of course, like I said, if this movie doesn't earn the money they wanted to earn, that is the reset that's already, the groundwork for that has already been laid out. So we can see that happen. From a business standpoint, I understand why they would do it. Okay, so it's time for me to give Justice League a score on the Mindbender movie meter. Overall, I enjoyed this movie, even though it does have some things I think they could have done much better. It is an enjoyable film, and if you're a comic book fan, you definitely want to see this movie. I wanted to love this movie, though. I wanted to come back singing the praises about how great this film was. I wanted to be able to say that it was the best DC film, and unfortunately for me, it was not. So I'm going to have to give this a score on the Mindbender movie meter of 65%. Justice League, 65%. Okay, so this has been my review for Justice League. If you enjoyed this review, definitely subscribe to his YouTube channel. I definitely want you to jump into the comment section and let me know what you enjoyed about this movie, or tell me what you did not like about this movie. And of course, tell me what your favorite scenes of the film are. Make sure you check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/MindbenderEntertainment. Follow us on Twitter at MindbenderENT. Check out the website, mindbenderent.com. And of course, remember, the future is now.